what is really going on? Because your boy Richbz is back and we are on a whole new, it ain't really new though. I was gonna say we're on a new topic. That's what I was gonna say. However, if you are a partaker of my videos, you'll realize that this topic isn't new, okay? We've been building to get here, okay? We have been building to get here. Give me 1 second because I just want to make sure that my sound is in the right place. It is, and I'm unsure as to why it's not being used in other videos, but we're gonna let that go. We're gonna let that go because I really want to get into this. You see the topic, you see the title, right? You see the title. Today we are leveling up. We are quote unquote, leveling up. We are leveling up. Okay? Leveling up. Now, what does that consist of? Well, here's what we're going to do. We're going to really talk about today decision making. When you look at the title, we're saying let's level up, better decision making. That's what we're talking about today. Now, understand I've done a deep dive, okay? When I say I've done a deep dive, meaning today I did something different than I normally do, which is I actually did not just internal research, but I had to look up some things, okay? I had to actually go out there and look up some things. Why did I look up some things? Because this information I needed to see, is there anything already out there that's like what I want to talk about today? And when I looked it up, I saw there are some decision frameworks that exist. Okay. There are some decision frameworks that exist. However, the ones that I saw did not really apply to the content of this channel. Okay. It didn't really apply in a way. Okay. In a way it applied, but not connected. So I figured that I can look back to my past videos and create my own framework based on things that we on this channel have logically thought about and gotten to that point. Okay. It took us a while. We went through several videos. I have a whole list of it. Matter of fact, I made a spreadsheet because of this topic right here. Because of this video we're doing today, I made a full-on spreadsheet. Okay. I made a full-on spreadsheet that has all of my videos listed. I have on this spreadsheet, and you know what? I'm going to show you. I'm going to show it to you. Okay. Hold on 1 second and I'm going to show it to you. So yeah. Let's minimum. Nobody needs that. Y'all don't need to see that. These are my terminal windows that I use when I'm doing coding. And y'all don't need to see that right now because we're not talking about coding. Well, we are coding our life. However, right now, what we're talking about is I did a deep dive, made a spreadsheet of all my videos, and I really got into what is the core subject that I talked about and what is the core pillar, right, that I deal with in that video. Okay. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to go to the desktop, right? Boom and boom, right? We're on the desktop. This is a list, if you will. Let me move it down because my what's the name's in the way. Okay. So if you look at this, right? If you look at this, maybe I can blow it up. Let's blow it up. Let's blow it up. Bang. You know what? Let's go bigger. Let's go 300. Bang. All right. This is the list of the videos that I've created, right? Starting back on January 21st. Okay. Now everything is in order, right? Everything is in order, date order from oldest to newest. All right. Bam. The first video. Why am I streaming? Right. This is talking about mission clarity. What is my channel about? What are we getting into? Right. The core I'm dealing with is purpose. Now, I'm not going to sit here and go through each one because you see it on screen. Okay. You see it on screen right now. But the point is that going from January 21st, and I started my channel in December. Okay. But I did this in January because I was really trying to hone in. Well, what am I going to deal with on my channel? What is my channel completely about? Because in the beginning, I did allude to certain things. I did kind of, say certain things. But I want you to know that now it has been dedicated towards these things. Okay. This is what I'm dealing with. We on this channel, if you come here, we're trying to be the best versions of ourselves. That's really what it came about. Over that first month when I was streaming, I was really trying to figure that out. I was trying to figure out, well, what really am I talking about in that first month? What was I really dealing with? So when I looked at all of those videos, I was like, well, I'm always kind of referencing being the best version of yourself, right? So before even this video, and this is before I started tracking it, okay? Before this video, this top one right here, right? Before that, I was on there still talking about I started off the year with planning, right? With planning and goal setting. That was my first videos. Goal setting, and then I came right behind that with planning, and then I came right behind that with how do you reach your plan, right? Those videos, I wish I still had. I hope I have them somewhere. Maybe I recorded them, but I didn't know at that time that Twitch is only going to hold, 7 days worth. Didn't know that. Even though it said it, I just, for some reason, I just let it, right? I didn't even. So once I realized that, I said, you know what? I'm going to have to implement YouTube to hold my videos on archive. Okay. So once I did, here's where we are, right? Starting in January 21st. Bam. We I reevaluated my stream and I said, you know what? Here's what we're talking about. So let me tell you what the mission is, right? Now, as we've been going through all of these videos, what we have found, okay, what we have found is that we've started talking about everything from making connections to being motivated to stress to love and relationships, keep going down, right? To discipline, identifying who you are, right? And then renegotiating with yourself, like just going through it, right? Get into agreement, even a show and tell. Now, this show and tell was just the execution of the things that we've talked about. Then that shows I was able to do this project because I had already understood these things, right? This was a whole project, but I didn't even get to being able to do that or even have that idea until after I've already learned and started figuring out what I want in life. Who am I? What's the best thing? You know what I mean? What things do I like? What things do I feel like are missing in the world that I'd like to see? This was the kind of mind adjustment that I had to do to be able to start to do the show and tell, right? Because I had been creating this, but these are all topics that I've done over my life that have gotten me to the point that I could even come up with this idea. Okay. Now, then we come over to, getting to agreement, right? And correcting the future from the past. That stream yesterday was really powerful because for me, it helped me to say, you know what? What is the next thing that someone would really need to be able to go through this process of making decisions, right? Because you have to decide to look at the past, to move forward, to not let that hold you down. You have to make a decision to want to look at the context of things. You have to make a decision to do all of these things, right? To do all of these things that I've talked about in this stream, we have to make a decision to do them. Well, the problem that normally someone may have is what does it look like to make a better decision, right? And so I thought about that and I'm like, well, what is the process of making decisions, right? Making decisions based on wanting to be the best version of yourself, right? Based on wanting to achieve the most, but not for somebody else, not because somebody else said that this is the thing that you should be doing, or you've seen success, you've seen them have success, right? Like you've seen them have success, and it's not, I don't want their success, right? I want my success. I want the success that has that is set up for me to win, where I can be my authentic self and I can win based on my thought processes, my experiences, and the things that fit my lifestyle and the way I want to be, right? The way I'm growing to be. So in that, right, if I go back to the desktop, you'll see the core pillars that we've talked about though, right? So let's go back to the desktop. The core pillars that we talked about here are right here, right, in this category, right? Core pillar. We've talked about purpose, community and leadership, discipline, emotional mastery, systems thinking, right? Mental strength, discipline. You see what I'm saying? Like purpose and ownership, right? Self-awareness. These are the things that we've talked about on this channel. And I believe, and I want to believe, and I'm going to believe that those who come into the channel, all of you in the chat, all of you that are viewing and not in the chat, what I want to believe is that you all come because you want to be a better version of yourself. That's why that's what I'm locking in on, okay? So I'm going to provide content for you guys to continue to grow, because in me communicating this to you, I too am also growing, right? Because it's making me reach outside and look in, like look in deep to what are the things that I'm doing good? What are the things that I understand, in a way that I can actually express them, right? To put them out to the world that then can help someone else to be a better version of themselves, right? That was the hard challenge. Okay. That was the hard challenge. And so, like I said, it helped me to be better. So I had to do research, because I was like, if I'm looking in myself and I'm saying, what type of things does it take for someone to be not only the best version of themselves, but to make better decisions that get them to be the best version of themselves? What does that look like? Is there any existing framework, right, that has been put in a book, said on a platform or something that can fit where the where it's not just totally about decisions, but it's also about making those decisions based on who you are. Okay. Not about the outside world, not about what everybody else is doing, more so, where do you stand? Right. And make a decision based on that. So I was like, you know what? Let me see if I can find one. Okay. And so I ran into several of them. And as I did, I have them listed. Okay. I have them listed on my screen right now. And I know you can't see it. I'm going to go through them. Not necessarily going to show you, but I am going to go through them because I want you to get what frameworks already exist. And then we're going to get into the one that I created based on, and I'm not going to tell you what well, it's based on my previous videos, right? Because like I said, I went back and I thought about all the videos that I've done, structured them out, created another spreadsheet, and then started listing out, well, what did I say in the past when I've referenced better decision making? Okay. So I have all of this listed out because, like I said, I really zoned in because I want you guys to win. You know what I'm saying? I want to win. I'm going to win. And you're going to win because we've made a decision to do that. How did we get to that decision? What made us get to that decision? That's why I had to make a framework, which will help you to continuously make better decisions. Okay. let's talk about a framework that I found. And the very first one I found actually was from a military strategist. Okay. So this is a known decision framework. Okay. But it's by a military strategist named John Boyd. I don't know the details about who John Boyd is. Okay. So if he's he's got some sketchy past, or, it's been disproven or whatever. Okay, cool. Whatever. That's not my concern, because that's not what I'm dealing with. I don't really care. What I care about is the framework in which he created, that he's put out there in the world, right? Because if it's out there in the world, despite the past, despite what he's done, the fact of the matter is people will use it. Okay. People will reference it and they will use it. And if it works, it doesn't matter who you are. It doesn't matter whether you're good, bad, whether you've done bad things, done good things. The fact of the matter is, does it work? Okay. So for military applications, here's what I found. This is called the OODA loop. Okay. The OODA loop. John Boyd. You can look it up, but here it is. So OODA: observe, orient, decide, act. That's in a military strategy, right? It's also used in business strategy. It's also used in crisis response. And the idea is the person who cycles through that decision process faster wins, right? That's why it's military strategy. That's why it's business strategy, right? That's why it's also crisis response. Because if you can cycle through that fast, you'll be the one who wins, right? So let's repeat it. What is it? OODA: observe, orient, decide, act, right? OODA. Get your notes, get your pen, get your pad, because these are things that you can write down and put it in place, because it might help you. Okay. If you're looking at military or business strategy, OODA: observe, orient, decide, act. Okay. I mean, that's a framework. Can I see that working for the things that we've talked about on this channel, and being the best version of yourself? Observe. I'm looking around, I'm seeing what's going on. Orient. I'm orienting myself towards the I guess the path that I want to be on, right? And I'm not here to teach their strategy. That's not what I'm here for. We're just thinking about it. Is it something that can be implemented, and does it make sense for being the best version of myself? Okay. Which all of these probably will make sense to be the best version of yourself, but I think it all depends on application, right? What am I trying to accomplish that this framework would work for? So if I think about it, it's like I said: observe, orient, decide, act. This is more high level. If I compare it to mine, because what I'm dealing with more so is the making a better decision part. So if you this that means that this, on a framework scale, would be a higher framework that would include the framework in which I think I came up with. Okay. So if you observe, orient, decide, and act, well, how do you make the decision, right? Because in military strategy, okay, I observe what's happening in the field. I orient myself to where, the issue is, or the thing that I need to handle, and then I decide what's the best course of action, and then I act on it. Cool. I think that there's pieces that may go with mine in that, but we got it, right? You got it, I got it. I mean, that's a W for that type of strategy. So I think I'm cool with it. It actually makes sense. Okay. Let's go to the second one I found. The second one I found is called RAP. It's called the RAP model. Okay. Now, this is by Chip and Dan Heath. Again, I'm not going to preface these anymore, but I'm going to say that I don't know who they are, don't know what they've done. All I know is they have a model called the RAP model. Okay. And this too is what is it called? An anagram? I think it's called an anagram, where W is widen options. R, reality test. Yeah. Reality test assumptions. Reality test assumptions. Okay. A would be attain distance before deciding. P, prepare to be wrong. This sounds like science, right? And I couldn't find out where it's normally used, but I think the biggest one that I saw it being used in is in leadership, like corporate leadership. And so if we go back and think about it again, widen options. What does that say? Like logically, widening your options would mean looking at more possible choices in problem solving. Because if you have options, then those are possible paths that you can go down to solve a problem, right? Okay, widen the options. Okay, I see all of the options that exist. So let's just say, and I've said this on the stream before, I said I wanted to get a PC because all I have is Macs, right? After years of experience starting off with PCs, then I decided to have a Mac. Why did I decide to have a Mac? Because of what I did. And I realized that it was very good at doing video editing, it's very good at doing motion graphics, very stable. It doesn't have to keep being rebooted. It doesn't do the blue screen of death. There was mad things that it was doing well that made me make that decision. However, in that choice, when I started looking at it, I widened my options first. Well, what exists? Because I'm tired of PCs. What else exists, right? So I looked at Linux. I looked at the different flavors of Linux first, because there's a lot of options just within Linux. And then I looked at, okay, maybe I just need a newer computer that, has a newer Windows version. And then I looked at Macs, right? Apples. And so I went and I did that because I widened the options for what was available. And those were the three major platforms that were available as operating systems. So when I did that, then I was able to say, okay, I'm not just zoned in on Macs, even though I know it's good, but is there anything else? So now we go to the reality test assumptions. And so I had to take the computer that I had and I installed Linux because I found out I could, right? I looked at it, played with it, installed it, did some things, all kind of stuff. And then that now, I even did that with Apple, right? Because you can go to an Apple store, you can go to the Genius Bar, whatever, and play with the Macs and stuff like that, test them out, see whether it's good, see what it does, all that kind of stuff. And so I did that for all the platforms. And now the next step in that RAP model is attain distance before deciding. So in other words, now that I've tested everything, right, then I need to distance myself from them. And I guess, is it true what my thoughts or really probably figure out what my thoughts are on them, right? Back up for a second. Think about all that you've seen when you tested it. Think about all the options that were there. And then, do that before I decide. And then the P is prepare to be wrong. So in my decision making, I chose Max, right? Is it good? Yes. Does it do everything I wanted to do? Basically. However, to prepare to be wrong, what I figured out was, well, I can't game with them. Like it does do gaming, but not the type of gaming that I would like to do if I did gaming. So that's the reason why now I want to go get a PC. Why? Because what said when I went through the thought process that Windows is the best platform to game on. Based on this model, that's what I found to be true. Okay, so is the model wrong? I think it's pretty good, but it's used in corporate leadership. So there must be some things that when you really look at the model in depth, there's some things that probably are better or excuse me, more explanatory to understand those steps, because for me, it feels like it's missing a step or two. But also, this is looking at everything outside, right? So it doesn't really deal with personal growth. It really doesn't deal with like bettering yourself. You know what I'm saying? But again, it's using corporate leadership. So really, I think corporate leadership, you're really looking at everybody else. You're looking at your corporation more than you're looking internal. Okay. So that was model two, the RAP model. The next model I found is called cost benefits analysis. Y'all know what that is. It's still a model. It's still a framework. Okay. It's not an anagram, but here it is. And this, the cost benefit analysis, this is used in a lot of households, to be honest, right? Like it's used in a lot of households, but they might not call it this, but this is kind of the thought process that they're doing. It's still a framework, it's still a decision framework. But it's more so used in the realm of economics, okay? Where you walk through these certain steps. Here's the steps. Step one, identify the options. That sounded like the RAP model, right? Identify, widen options. But this one is identifying the options. What are the options there? And then identify the benefits, right? What are the benefits to that option? You know, each option that you identified, what are the benefits for those options? Okay. And to be honest, this framework is better suited when I gave the example of how I ended up getting Macs, or Apple computers. It was like this because this is the one that I feel like this cost benefit analysis is the one that I lean on a lot. But that's as a business owner, as a father, as a husband, as a person that's supposed to be in charge in various scenarios. It's like this one fits. This one fits. It again, because I didn't finish the step, so let's go back. Step one, identify the options. Okay, what are all the options there? Two, identify the benefits. What are the benefits of said options, right? Three, identify the cost, right? What is the cost of every option, right? Then choose the highest net value, right? Not about price. It's not about getting the lowest price. It's not about, getting the most benefits. It's not about, having the most name brand option. It's about choose the one with the highest net value. Value. Value can mean like long term. Value can mean basically, and this is another saying, get the most bang for your buck. You know what I'm saying? Meaning it does the most things out of the options that you have um for the most reasonable price that can fit inside your budget. Because sometimes we know this name brand, but there's something that's not name brand that has a lot of benefits, right? It has a lot of the benefits of the name brand, and it's a lower cost than the name brand, but it just doesn't have the name. That's really the gist. And there may even be some additional features that it does that the name brand doesn't do. Okay. Here's the thing. This is the reason why I think Amazon is doing so well when it comes to the type of products that they deliver, or the type of products that they sell, because of review, their product review section. Okay, their product review section is where a lot of people lean on in purchasing on Amazon. I know when I go on there, one of the very first things that I'm going to do is I'm going to click the little button that says anything that's 4 stars or higher, right? Because immediately that filters out anything that's subpar, right? Be it the customer service, be it the product doesn't last, be it has, issues, people don't like it, whatever that may be. I filter that from the gate, right? I want products that have good reviews. The reason why I want those products, or I would purchase those over even a name brand, is because other people have used that product and they're saying, this is great. This is I had a great experience with this product. It's lasting, it's doing the thing, whatever, and it has a high rate of approval from the people who use it. So if I want that type of product, that's going to play a huge part into whether or not I'm going to get it. It's not about the name, it's about the review. Will it do the thing that it said it would do? To me, that's going to rank higher and give it more value in my eyes, right? So when you look at all of this, that cost benefit analysis is a very logical decision making style, right? But here's the issue. The issue is that does not include anything about like identity. It doesn't include anything about personal growth. It doesn't include anything that has to do with a better you. Okay. So these are the reasons by which I'm like, these things fit. And I can definitely go off and explain them because I use them, right? I use definitely the cost benefit analysis. I'm going to tell you, I use it a lot. So if there's any one of these that you definitely need to know, it's that one, right? It's that one. That cost benefit analysis helps you to make some great decisions when it comes to buying and selling, right? If you're going to create a business or something, like knowing that is huge because it matters in positioning your product in the market. That's why it matters. So if you really think about that cost benefit analysis, that's one that you should keep handy. That thought process, that framework, you should keep handy. So because I'm saying that, here it is again. I'm gonna tell you again. If you don't already have it written down, if you didn't get your pen and paper, here's what it is. Identify the options, identify the benefits, identify the costs, and then choose the highest net value. That's what it is. That one is the banger. So you get an explosion for that one because that's huge. Okay. That's huge. That's a highly used framework. Next. Next, this one is one that is popularized by uh Elon Musk. Okay. He uses this a lot and he says it a lot. So this is called first principles thinking. Okay. First principles thinking. Now again, it took me some time to get all this stuff together. So now that I have it, I just want to make sure that we're working through these so that way you can see how the framework that I came up with based on my videos is going to help and what the differentiation is between my framework and the current frameworks. Okay. So this one called first principles thinking is you break down the problem to the fundamental truths. Okay. Break down the problem to the fundamental truths. This is something that I do innately. I didn't really need a framework, I think. I don't even know how I got to this type of thinking, but this is a way that I do think. And you know what? It's played out in each one of these videos. This framework is played out in each one of these videos, and I did it unconsciously. Didn't even know that this was a thing. Okay, didn't even know this was a thing. But how I even came up with the framework was based on this type of thinking. So this is a core type of principle that can help. Okay, here's the steps. Step one: identify assumptions. We talked about that. What are you assuming when it comes to whatever it is, right? Like, I need something that can hold water, right? We can identify, well, what are the assumptions? What are the things that could be, right? What is the usage of it? What is this thing supposed to do? Is it supposed to just hold it, or is somebody supposed to put their lips to it, right? Is it supposed to get on heat, right? Meaning, are you supposed to put the water in there so it can cook or boil? Or are you supposed to put it in, like you're trying to hold water to do what with? You know what I mean? So you're trying to identify all the assumptions that this thing is supposed to provide. Then you come to breaking down the problem to the fundamentals, right? So if you realize, hey, I want this to hold water, but I do want to drink from it, right? Then what's the problems um, that this thing either currently has, if it already exists, or if it's something new that you're trying to come up with? What are break down, excuse me, the problem to all the fundamentals? How am I going to pick it up? What um it does it need to, like I said, heat? Does it need to keep something cold? Like what is the usage of the water? Is it going to be used for something in medical? Is it going to be used for, like I said, drinking? Is it going to be used for animals? Like what is the usage of it? So then you can break it all the way down and know all the pieces that this thing is going to have to provide a fundamental for, right? Then you have to build the reasoning from scratch, right? Because you might have to rethink the solution, right? Rethink that problem and figure out another solution for that. Because just because there's a cup that exists now, how many different versions are there of cups, right? And here's an example. I have a cup here, right? This is my tea cup, okay? Or it can be a coffee cup, right? Um, But the point of that cup is to heat things, right? Or excuse me, to keep things warm. But somebody else said, you know what? Well, what about a cup that keeps things warm longer? And so they did some kind of an insulation type beat where it'll stay, hot, actually close to boiling for a long time, right? Somebody else said, well, you know what? I only drink cold things. I need my cup to keep things cool longer, right? And so what you end up finding is, some people say, well, I want a cup that holds more water. I want a jug. You know what I'm saying? All of this stuff is something that holds water. But depending upon the usage, they had different assumptions they had to make. You know what I mean? Which created different products. So that's how you have to navigate through when you're really trying to break down a problem and find the best solution for the usage that you're trying to use it in. You know what I'm saying? But here's the thing. When I look at all of those frameworks, what I've realized is, and you remember I tried to tell you that these different ones are not including things like your identity, right? It's not taking into account for that. It's not taking into account any past influences. It's not taking into account the environment in which you live in, right? It's not taking into account the discipline that we've talked about on previous streams. You know what I mean? Like, I it's not taking into account the agreement, right? Like, I'm just thinking about the videos. Like, it doesn't take into account um the growth that trajectory that we're talking about, right? Because all of this matters when you want to make better decisions for you to be based on being a better version of yourself, right? Because the outcome is to do things different now so your future self can be better. That's what we're working out. So how will we do that, right? In the framework that I've created based on the videos in which we've done so far, the framework, it is more of a um I'm trying to think of the way to really, like, say it. I guess you can say it's my niche, right? My niche, or the niche of this channel. In the niche of this channel it would have to have things that include like self-awareness and reflection. Um, and because I'm sitting here looking at the spreadsheet, and so none of those things really include those. So how can I make a better decision in my life? Not looking at, like, one of them was corporate vision, one of them was just problem solving, one of them is strategy. Okay, cool. But what about, I just want to make a better decision. You know what I'm saying? What does that look like? What does making a better decision entail that has to do with better decisions for me? Here's what we have. We're gonna call this, and if I would have took even longer, meaning I wouldn't even stream now because I've still been up to this last minute, I've been still researching and trying to get all this stuff together to be able to say it, but I would have created a screenshot. So when I said, this framework, I could like boom and put it on the screen and maybe have some motion graphic or something, right, for y'all. So that way it could be exciting. Dun dun dun. You know what I mean? Type of music. But we're just gonna keep this real, right? Real straightforward, because that's what we do. Doesn't require all the extras, all the bells and whistles. If it can stand on its own, then it's good enough, right? Because we had that whole thing. Remember, we had a whole live talked about what is good enough, right? And so we're about to give this good enough. Okay. Make sure you got your pen, make sure you got your paper, put it in your notes app, grab your phone, whatever you want to do, but write it down, because I think I'm going to expound upon this in a book version soon. Okay. But in the meantime, between time, I want to release it because I want you to show how I want to show how all the things in this channel thus far have added up to this framework. Okay. Now, again, this is intentional. This is intentionality behind the streams in which you're listening to. Okay. If you haven't listened to all the other streams, go check them out on the YouTube channel. You can watch everything that I showed in that spreadsheet and more, because there's more in there. But these are the ones that really get to the gist of where we're going with this framework. Okay. So if you're ready, buckle in, strap the seatbelt tight. We're going to get into it. And I'm also going to reference what video it came from. Okay. Because I want to show you how we've talked about these pieces individually. We've talked about these pieces individually throughout the videos. So I'm going to give you the video. Write the name of the video down so that way you can make sure that you can go back and watch that video, because they're the breakdowns, right? If you will, it's the breakdown for that specific subject. Listen, I don't know if you can tell, but I'm so excited about this framework. I am. I'm so excited about this framework because I really broke this down to the nth degree because of the videos that I've done so far. The videos that we have sat there and went through all of this stuff. Okay? So here we go. The Richbz level framework. Okay? So when we make decisions, we're trying to get level. Here's the level framework, right? And yes, it is an anagram. Okay? Let's go, people. Let's go. If you're ready, let's go. Remember, I said it's an anagram. So level 1, or 1, is the L, right? L is level set. Okay. First, we have to level set. Again, this is coming off all these videos. So make sure that you go back and watch them so that way you can get the gist and build up and be right level with where we are right now. Okay. So 1, level set. What does that mean? And we've talked about it. Like I said, we've talked about it on several other streams. But level set means to define the language and the situation, right? That's how you level set. So you remember on this stream, I tell you all the time, like, hey, if we say a word and it's that word can be taken a couple different ways, we're going to look it up, right? Because we need to level set for everyone what the language we're using is, because if we don't have an agreed upon language, word, definition for what we're saying, then it causes confusion. There's no understandable uh, um, communication, right? You can't get understanding. You can't even make a decision about it because part of it you don't understand, right? So if we do that for the language, we also have to do that for the situation, right? So we're level setting the whole scene. Okay, we're level setting the whole scene. And where did we talk about this? Which stream did we talk about this on? You remember? The stream that we talked about this on was getting to agreement, right? So that's a relatively recent stream. Getting to agreement. I'm getting to agreement is on. Here we go to the desktop. Hold on. Boom. Oop. Boom. Okay. Getting to agreement is from 3-2, right? So that was this month on the second. Getting to agreement is what we talked about, right? Conflict resolution through emotional regulation and structured communication, right? Structured communication, right? So again, we're talking about level setting, okay? And so if you go to the getting to agreement, you'll get the gist of what it looks like to level set, because in that stream, we literally had to break down and go through definitions, and I explained why we're doing that. Okay, so that's where you go to for that level set. That's step one. Here's the questions that you have to ask yourself when you talk about level setting. Question one: what exactly are we talking about? Right? Whenever you go to level set with someone, that's the question that you're going to ask. What exactly are we talking about? Right? One of the other questions you might ask: what does this word actually mean? Right? So you may say, what does this word actually, ooh, once you find out what we're actually talking about, if you still have confusion, then if you still, yeah, are a little confused on what the whole situation is about, then you might have to define the word or the idea to figure out what does that actually mean. Okay? This is how we make better decisions for ourselves. Right? Because if someone says that you need to do, or you need to be, or you need to grow, or you need to, whatever, whatever, well, what does that mean? What does that word that you're using actually mean? And it's not on you to ask them to define it. You don't have to ask them to define it. You can go look it up for yourself and then confirm with that person, is this what you mean? Right? Because the truth is, for you to make a good decision about something, you have to figure out, well, what is that thing? What is that idea? What is that word? What is that situation? You have to figure out, you have to level set so you can understand what that is. Okay? That's step one, level set, right? And again, this is the level framework. Richbz level framework. Okay? Level. Next letter, E, right? E. What does E stand for? Anybody got an idea? No? Okay. E is examine the context, right? Examine the context. Look at where your thinking came from. What made you think this way, right? Because what we know, and we talked about this on a past video, right? This is from the video before um, correcting the future from the past. This was just yesterday. We talked about this. Okay. Just yesterday, we talked about this. Um, and again, I'm putting a lot of time into trying to make sure that you guys, like, as I'm getting to a thing like this framework, I'm gonna hit those pieces that get us there, so that way you already have an understanding. So when I drop this on you, you got it. You already got the pieces. That's why you gotta watch. That's why you gotta subscribe. All right. That's why you gotta tune in and join in every time I'm streaming, so that way you can get that next piece. Okay. And you don't miss it. Because if you miss it, then you got to go back. Okay. But where did that thinking come from? That's what we need to figure out in the E, right? Examine the context. So here's the questions. Is this a belief of mine? Right? Is this something that I believe? Right? Or did I inherit that belief? Right? Is my environment influencing my choices? Right? Because again, we're examining the context in around the decision that has to be made. Because if we can't examine why do we need to make this decision, what is the real reason by which we have to make this decision? Is this a decision that we have to make, or is this a decision that somebody else needs to make? Like, we have to examine the context around the situation, the decision. You know what I'm saying? And so in doing that, again, like I said, this came from correcting the future from the past. This was the video we did yesterday. We talked about that. We talked about getting context. Okay. So we have to realize that when we go to make a decision, we've level set the situation. We understand all the pieces. Now we have to understand the context in which this decision needs to be made, right? When we examine the context of the decision that needs to be made and why we're making this decision and whose decision is it really that needs to be made, then we have to realize that our past can modify how we're even thinking about that, right? So all this is in the examine phase, right? When you're examining the context, you're looking at it 360 degrees around that, around you. You know what I'm saying? Because we need to figure out what are the things that are influencing, so that way we can make an accurate decision, right? Once we figure out the things that can influence my decision, then I can separate myself from that. Do you see what I'm saying? Like, I can separate myself from those things that I've examined to be the context in which I'm making this decision. And now I can look internally, right? Next, I can look internally and I can say, well, what are my values, right? So we have LEV. What are my values? You have to do a values check. What are my values? Who do I want to be? What do I want to get out of this decision? You know what I'm saying? So if I ask myself, who do I want to be, then I'm looking at that from a value standpoint. Does the decision that I'm about to make match my values? You know what I mean? Is it something that aligns with where I see myself growing? Right? Does does this align with the person I'm trying to become? You see what I'm saying? So when you do a values check, you're really looking internally and saying, well, that means based on what we talked about yesterday, you need to go and actually list out, like, who are you? What things matter to you? Where do you want to grow? What do you think that you should look like in 5 years? Right? But remember, we went into this when we started talking about, when we did the video on identity. Excuse me, not identity. Well, it was on identity, but it was identify your reflection, right? When you go looking at the reflection, when you look in the mirror, what is the mirror telling you that you are currently? And is that saying where you know that you want to grow to? right? Because if it's not telling you that you're where you want to grow, then that means that you need to make different decisions. Okay. And this is going to help you make this different decisions by level setting, right? Examining the context. You do your values check. And once you do that, the next thing that you have to do is the E, the second E, which is execute. Execute with discipline. Y'all know we had a whole thing on discipline. We talked about discipline over motivation, right? Why discipline beats motivation was the name of the video. Go back and watch it. Go back. Why discipline beats motivation, right? And so, as a matter of fact, hold on. Yeah. That's right. That's right. That video was February 18th, right? So go back and watch that one. Why discipline beats motivation. Also, you want to couple that with stop renegotiating with yourself. Okay? Stop renegotiating with yourself. Those two talk about the whole execution and doing that with discipline, right? So make the decision and stop renegotiating with yourself. That's why you have to watch those two. Those two completely cover this whole E, which is execute with discipline, right? Excuse me. Because as you know, and we talked about it before, motivation ebbs and flows. It's going to go up, it's going to go down. Motivation is all over the place, depending on how you feel that day. Not every day does anybody, like nobody feels motivated every day to do the thing that they do. Nobody feels motivated every day. And even if every day they may wake up feeling motivated to do it, that motivation can wane throughout the day. You know what I'm saying? So you have to remember that discipline follows through, right? The discipline that you create to do the thing that you say you're going to do, that's what helps you to execute with discipline. Execute with discipline. Okay? So that's the E. That's the second E. Executing with discipline. Now, we're getting to the final one. And if you've been watching this channel, then you'll already know what the L could be. If you don't, it's okay. You get a pass. But here it is. Learn. Learn from the outcome. Right? This is the circular what is it called? Um how the world revolves, right? If once you make a decision, the decision is always going to give you feedback, right? The decision is always going to give you feedback. So you have to remember that the question that you have to ask yourself is, well, what worked? When I made that decision, what worked about it? Right? What didn't work? Did I not get the outcome I was looking for? Right? And then if I didn't get the outcome that I thought I should get, well, what do I need to change? Right? What do I need to change to be able to get the final outcome that I was looking for? Because you are going to get an outcome, right? When you make a decision, you are going to get an outcome. But if it didn't get the outcome that you thought, then you have to reevaluate and figure out, well, what should I change next time when I make a different decision? Okay. Now this whole thought process, when you're learning from the outcome, you can reference correcting the future from the past, because in there we talked about learning from the outcome. We talked about how the past is information, not limitation, right? The past is information. Matter of fact, that was in reflecting reflection, identifying your reflection, right? Who are you? We talked about it in there too, when we talked about, you know, your reflection, which is the outcome of where you are now, is the information you need to figure out, am I making good decisions, right? Because if you're somewhere that you currently are is not where you want to be, then that just means you have to make different decisions. Simple as that, right? Because the past should be the information that you use to get to the better decision, to have the better future, right? So if we go back through these, make it real quick, so that way you can jot them down. If you were just listening, now you have a chance to jot them down. Level. This is the Richbz decision framework. Level, right? Level. Level. It starts off with level setting. That's the L, level setting. E, examine the context, right? V, values check. E, execute with discipline. L, learn from the outcome. Level set, examine the context, value check, execute with discipline, and learn from the outcome, right? That's the Richbz level framework. How do you make good decisions for yourself? So that way you can be a better version going forward into your future, right? Because the whole point of level is simple. Better decisions create better habits. Better habits create better identity. Better identity creates better future. It makes it that simple. You know what I'm saying? It makes it that simple. So I'm trying to get you guys to really get to the level of where you want to be. You know what I'm saying? Where you want to be. And to do that, we have to flip the language, because you shouldn't be striving for the level you want to be, because you'll get to the level that you decide to be. And that's a fact. Because you're only going to, everybody on this earth and the thing that they're experiencing is a sum of the decisions that they've made, right? The only people who aren't necessarily a sum of the decisions they made are children, right? And when I say children, I'm talking about babies, right? They didn't make a decision, not at all. Children are a sum of your decisions. Once they get to a certain age, they start to become their decisions. You see what I'm saying? Once they can consciously start making a decision for themselves and they understand what that decision outcome is, they're a sum of their decisions. It switches from the parents over to the children. Children then become adults based on the decisions in which they made. Like when you start going to school, because like in school, there's the hinge. There's the hinge that you really start creating your own decision path. When you create that decision path and you're walking through going to class or not, right? Paying attention to the teacher or not, you're starting to create your path. You're starting to create your future. The more that you modify based on bad decision making, the faster you're going to end up in a place that you don't want to be. You're going to end up with outcomes that you don't want to have. So if you can remember anything about any of the streams that we talked about, it's that level, right? Let's get level. Get level with where you want to be. Get level with where you want to be. You do that by level setting, right? Examining the context, doing a values check, executing with discipline, and learning from the outcome. Wash, rinse, repeat. So here's the last thing I'm gonna say, because I had to really think about this and I wanted to make sure that I could sum this up really good. You know, almost at the end of every stream, I try to at least sum it all up, right? If I could put all of this into one sentence, what would that sentence be? Right? For this one, I really couldn't. No, because I have a thought process I've created as a sentence, like I've already created a sentence. But as I'm thinking about it, I don't know if that's the right sentence to even use it to sum this up. Mm, okay. Let's say this sentence, because this is the sentence that I first thought about, which is your future isn't built on motivation, right? Your future isn't built on motivation. Your future is built on the decisions that you repeat. I like the second one. That's the one that I like, because you know what we've said in past streams, we're not really talking about the negative. We're always talking about the positive, because we want our language to match where we want to be. So we want to always speak what we want, right? Speak what we desire, speak what we deciding to speak like. Not speak out of emotion, but speak out of decisions, right? Logical decisions. Now, to do that, I think the statement of your future is built on the decisions that you repeat would be a better statement. Yep, yep, yep. In me thinking about it, that sums up what we just talked about. Yeah, your future is built on the decisions that you repeat. I like it. I like it. Quote unquote. Richbz, the level framework. Right? This is the level framework. I hope this helps. You know what I'm saying? I hope it helps y'all. I hope it helps you to make better decisions for yourself, and where you want to be in your life. I really hope it gives you that next level of understanding so you can go out and actually be a better version of yourself, right? By making decisions that get you there. Um, because like your life is literally built upon the decisions you repeat. I can't even, that is the best way to say it. That is the best way to say it. So make better decisions. Make better decisions. That's the only way you're going to get to a different outcome, right? And whatever outcome you're getting thus far, whatever image you see in the current mirror, then obviously those decisions of the past are going to need to change. They're going to need to change. So change them. Make the decision in this moment to change them. And then be a person of your word, right? Because once you change it, once you say, I'm going to do this, do that. Do that. Back in the day, they used to say, come hell or high water, I'm going to do this. Meaning it doesn't matter whether hell or high water comes, I'm going to do that. That's the decision you need to make today. All right. So I appreciate you guys for joining me today. I appreciate you, even if you didn't say anything in the chat. Listen, as long as you came to the stream, know that Richbz cares about you and cares about your well-being. Hopefully, you'll be a better version of yourself come tomorrow, because the decisions of today change what's going on tomorrow. Make better ones right now. And you joining the stream today was a great decision. So come back tomorrow. We'll be back on the topic. Can't tell you right now what the topic is going to be, but obviously it's always going to be a next step, because I do take time to think about, well, what's the next step, right? So today we're talking about Richbz's level framework. Level. Get level for your future. Get level with your future, because your future is very important. And the only way you're going to get the better future is to make changes today. Make changes today. All right. You know what it is. You know who it is. Richbz, the real Richbz. Tell a friend to tell a friend. Follow your mans. And I'll see you on the next one. This has been fun. Richbz out.